body tastes salt, it thinks it's getting the minerals. And so what happens is it causes this mineral imbalance, and it causes a fluid imbalance, because sodium, of course, influences the fluid in the body. And because of the imbalance, we looked at that when we looked at heart, it can cause high blood pressure. So that's one place we can get the minerals. Dr. Robert Thompson says a small crystal of Celtic salt on your tongue before you start each glass of water, all that will do is replace the minerals you lost yesterday. You lost it in your perspiration, you lost it in your urine, you lost it in your colon. And those minerals need to be replaced. Dr. Lilangri, the French doctor who wrote the book on salt, he calls it our internal ocean. Our blood's salty, our body fluids are salty. To say we shouldn't be taking salt, it makes no sense at all. So this is one way that we can get these minerals. Where else do we find these minerals? We find these minerals in dark green leafy vegetables. I think we've talked about these a few times, is that right? Mm-hmm. Dark green leafy vegetables. Dark green leafy vegetables are very high in minerals. So we should be having dark green leafy vegetables every day, and if we don't, we should have a dose of green barley.
A dose of what?
Green barley, or barley green, or super green, for the minerals. But one of the main problems, do you remember in our acronym Sustained Me? So, sunshine. What does sunshine give us? The ultraviolet rays, actually UVB rays, hit the skin and they convert a form of cholesterol just under, what do they convert? A form of cholesterol just under the skin to vitamin D. And vitamin D is essential for the assimilation of calcium. Calcium's called the king, and because it's called the king, it's been misunderstood. So why is it called the king? It's called the king because when calcium gets in, all the other minerals piggyback on the back of calcium. But we need to take calcium into our body the way it's found in nature with all the other minerals. Vitamin D is essential for the assimilation and utilisation of calcium. So one of the reasons people are getting osteoporosis is they're lacking vitamin D. So we need to get out in the sunshine. The middle of the day has the hottest sun, so you don't need to be out in that long. And if we're in there too long, we burn. But make sure that your skin, say, for instance, if you have a shower and wash yourself with soap and go out in the sun, you won't get any vitamin D because you need some oils on your skin, the natural oils. And once you've been out in the sun, don't have a shower and wash yourself with soap straight away because you'll wash all your oils away because it takes 2 hours for your skin to process and develop the vitamin D. But if you're lying out in the sun near a lake, on the sea, probably not the sea here, more like a river or a lake, and dive into the pool, you won't lose because you're not scrubbing it with soap, unless you dive into a chlorinated pool. Then the chlorinated pool can interfere with the build-up or the pickup. So notice what I said, UVB rays. The glass blocks the UVB rays. Sunscreens block UVB rays. Do I use sunscreen? I have never used sunscreen. If Michael and I are on holidays, I'm lying out by the pool, I have a watch. 10 minutes front, 10 minutes back, underneath the umbrella. In the afternoon, 10 minutes front, 10 minutes back, underneath the umbrella. And usually within 4 days, I've got a nice tan. That's my UVB tan. And that UVB tan, that will last a long time. And with my UVB tan, now I can be out in the sunshine for quite a while because I've got the darker the skin, the more protection you've got, and the darker the skin, the more sun that you need. A lady said to me, Barbara, my little girl, she's in preschool and she's not allowed to go outside unless she puts sunscreen on. Australia's gone crazy. You see, one of the problems with Australia and sun cancer is they've overdone the sun. And 6 to 7 sunburns in your lifetime will double your risk of skin cancer because it damages the skin. So we have to protect our skin, don't let it get burned. In fact, there's got a program in Australia called Slip, Slop, Slap. Slip a top on, slap a hat on, and slop the sunscreen on. Is that, you don't have that here? That must be very Aussie, slip, slop, slap. Is it working? Has skin cancer reduced? Not at all. Not at all. You know what they're finding now? They're finding that vitamin D deficiency is contributing to skin cancer. And so this mother said, what do I do with my little girl? She's not allowed to go outside unless she's got sunscreen. And I said, buy a tube of sunscreen and buy a tube of aloe vera. Did you know aloe vera is a natural sunscreen? But if you're going to be out in the sun for hours, even aloe vera is not going to protect you. I said, squeeze all that poisonous sunscreen out into the bin, you call it trash can, and then suck up the aloe vera gel into the tube and send that with the child. You're not lying because it's sunscreen.
I've always had a vitamin D deficiency. What helps with that? Including just taking a lot of vitamin D.
Well, it's getting the skin in the sun. But of course you can't have any creams on, you mustn't have washed yourself with soap and washed off all the oils. So when I garden, I just have a little singlet on, and when it's starting to get hotter, then I'll put a hat on. So in 2020, when I was the gardener, I was always very, very brown. So you need the sun, but you also make sure that you've got those natural oils on your skin. And if someone's vitamin D levels are low, they may need initially to take a supplement to get it up again. So we need the sunshine and use of water. Every cell in the body must be hydrated. This is muscle, bone, ligament, everywhere. Sleep. It's between those night hours that our bodies are recharged and revived. T, trust in God. Thank God every day for this incredible body that we've been given. Remember that Psalm 146, verse 3? Put not your trust in princes, neither in the Son of Man, who is no help. Who are the princes? Are they the authorities in many different fields? Do you know God gave us the authority over our bodies? Put not your trust in princes, neither in the Son of Man, whom there's no help. His breath goes forth, he returns unto his earth, in that very day his thoughts perish. So you might have a doctor or someone who's advising you and they're in a car accident. Well, you've just lost them. Happy is he that hath the God of Jacob as his help, whose hope is in the Lord his God, that maketh heaven and earth, the sea, and all that therein is, which keepeth truth forever. So what you're hearing this work is truth. So this is someone you can trust. Abstain. This is a big one with bones. Because what's happening is people are taking things into their body that leach the minerals. So what leaches minerals, because as you can see it's all about minerals, what leaches the minerals is refined sugar. In fact, one writer said, sugar leaves the body better dressed than when it went in. And went in totally naked and comes out dressed with your minerals. Another that leaches the minerals is caffeine, especially the magnesium. Magnesium and calcium, and also alcohol. See, these are all poisons, and what poisons do, they harm the body. So the body uses minerals to calm them down, so that they don't totally kill you. Drugs are synthetic, drugs are chemicals. They're robots, remember? They've got a job to do whether you need it or not. Whereas the herbs work with the body. Inhale. Even your bone cells need oxygen. Every cell in the body needs oxygen, and you'll get more oxygen when you're breathing in and out through your nose. Nutrition. So what are the foods that will give us the most minerals? Now there's something else we have to abstain from, and that's cow's milk. But aren't we told that we should drink cow's milk to get calcium? Well, let me show you what happens with cow's milk. Here is a glass of milk. And this glass of milk is high in protein, and it is also high in calcium. But this protein, this animal protein, only 58% is burnt as fuel. So that leaves a 42% waste, and it's an acid waste. And the most alkaline mineral in the body is calcium. So what the body does is it uses the calcium to negate that sulfur residue. So how much calcium is left for us? None. The countries in this world that are the highest cow's milk consumers have the highest incidence of osteoporosis. Because let's say a person has a glass of milk and with that has maybe a steak. Well, there's not calcium in the steak to negate the sulfur residue, so where's the calcium going to come from now? The biggest storage house, which is the bones. Now the cow, it can access the calcium because it's got 5 stomachs. And by the way, what do cows eat to get strong bones? Grass. What do elephants eat? You look at the biggest boned animals on the planet, they're all vegetarians. They're all getting from the greens. And the greens, of course, has all the minerals. I remember I took my 6 children to the dentist. I think the eldest was 13 and the youngest was about 2. I think it's time I took them to the dentist. And the dentist looked at their teeth and she said, "Your children's teeth astonish me." She said, they're so strong. There's no cavities. But you know, I never gave them sugar and I never gave them cow's milk. But we had a big garden and I nourished the soil. So the plants were very high in minerals. She said, "One of your children has a little bit of a cavity," but she said, "It's in a part where it seems the food get caught." But she said, "It's like the cavity stopped because the tooth is so strong that the cavity's not going anywhere." Isn't that incredible? They don't get cow's milk, but they don't eat sugar. They're eating a lot of greens out of the garden. And when we looked at child nutrition this morning, we discussed how, like when a child is 12 months old, 14 months old, have you noticed they'll eat anything? They'll eat a caterpillar, they'll eat a worm, see what they put in their mouth. So you know what I say, so what happens? How come they become fussy? How come they're going to eat this or that? I think it's because of what children are introduced to. They're introduced to candies, they're introduced to sugar biscuits, and no child is going to want to eat fruit after they've eaten a sugar biscuit. So I didn't introduce my children to any of that stuff. They didn't even know what chocolate was. They never had candies. But I used to make dessert a couple of times a week, so the children were were very happy with their food. Probably helped the fact that they were homeschooled up in a rainforest. But even when other children came to visit, you know, if we had visitors, we'd always make dessert. And we'd have a kids' table and then we'd have the adults' table because, you know, lots of kids. And I'd hear the children saying to the other kids, "You've got to eat your veggies or you won't get dessert." The children were telling the other children, "Here, I'll help you because we've got apple pie coming." It was peer pressure at its best. And I was surprised how all the kids ate. The 3 essential food groups: fibre. And fibre, your biggest fibre food are all your vegetables. And as we also talked this morning about how there are some dentists that saying teeth and gums are deteriorating because people aren't eating enough crunchy food. We should be eating carrots and apples and crunchy food. Strengthens the gums. Fibre, protein. Protein, the best protein is found in your legumes, nuts, seeds, good fats. 50% of the membrane around every cell in the body is protein. 50% of the membrane around every cell in the body is the fats. They're the 3 essential food groups. Sustain me. Moderation. You overeat, the stomach can't process all the food. You can't get the nutrients out of the food. Have gaps between the meals. Exercise. Exercise strengthens bones. And the best exercise, the best bone strengthening exercise, the best muscle strengthening exercise is defying gravity. And the best exercise for defying gravity is rebounding. So you're doing strength exercise by pushing up against gravity. If you're not used to the rebounder, you just start with this. This is just your health bounce. And then as you get more confident and stronger, you can start leaping. And there's no jarring with rebounding. It's not like skipping or running where every step you're jarring. And what you're also doing, you're jumping on the part of our foot that was designed to take the weight, which is toes. I read a book called Born to Run by Christopher McDougall. He's a runner that had hamstring problems, lower back, hip problems. So he decided to take a few months off work and travel the world interviewing runners, looking at the history of running. And he discovered in the Olympic Games in 1960 and 1964 an African named Abibi Bikila. Has anyone here heard of Abibi Bikila? He was an African runner that took home gold, barefoot runner. When you run barefoot, you will never heel strike. Your body will not let you. You'll always toe strike. But these padded joggers that are made today encourage people to heel strike. Anyway, Christopher McDougall, in all of his, investigation of runners, etc., he discovered that all his problems came from heel striking. You watch how children run. How do they run? Always on their toes. And our toes were designed to take the weight. There's like a cushioning effect when you're running on your toes. When I read this book, I went out and bought my first set of barefoot runners. And they've got a really thin sole. And when I started running up the hills in my barefoot runners the next day, I was so sore. And it made me realise that you use totally different muscles when you toe strike compared to when you heel strike. And so be very careful if you're a runner how you're running, so that you can protect your lower back and all your joints, actually. But rebounding, you'll always jump on your toes. And we have a second heart, and it's the calf muscle. And it's the calf muscle pumping that gets the venous system back up to the heart. That's why rebounding is excellent for people with varicose veins, because it's massaging that heart muscle, that calf muscle, the second heart. And also, there's no jarring when you're rebounding. And it's the best exercise for your bones. You can rebound too with some weights if you want. And you can strengthen your bicep muscles. So when you rebound, if you put your arms out, that's your bicep muscles while you're rebounding. And if you put your palm up, there's your tricep muscles. So you can strengthen upper body on the rebounder too. Yes?
Does it make a difference what kind of rebounder? I've heard that bigger springs are better for not pronating.
Well, it can make a difference. Please don't buy a $29 rebounder unless you buy it on Gumtree, and it is worth a couple of $100. But the best rebounders are the ones with the rubber. It's like bungee rubber. They're the best rebounders. The one that we have is Bellicon. It'll be cheaper for you because it's made in America and we have to get it from America. I think it costs us $1,000. It'll be cheaper for you. And I know one lady said she bought a cellulosizer. Yeah, and that had the rubber on it. So a lot of the cheap ones, it's almost like jumping on the ground. You know, there's hardly any give to them. It's the only exercise that strengthens every single cell in the body, is the rebound. There was a newspaper article in Australia, it had headlines, and it said, "I can't jump anymore." That was the headlines of the newspaper. And when you read it, a lot of children can't run or jump anymore because they're like this all day, or they're like this. So children's bones aren't developing like they should because they're not doing enough exercise. One lady said, "I live in a little cul-de-sac, and every Christmas Day the kids are out there with their skateboards and their scooters and their, you know, whatever they got." She said last year no one was out there because where were they? There's only one thing getting exercised, and that's the thumbs. And there are many chiropractors and osteopaths saying that they're getting a lot of people with neck problems because they're... You ever been on a train or plane or... Everyone's... So if you are looking at your phone, try and look at it like this. And children should have more physical than mental, because those developing bones, see, that's where the strength of our bones is really set when we're young. And that's why there should be a lot more exercise when we're young. Every home should have a trampoline. Let the kids go on the trampoline a lot. Yes?
Do you rebound barefoot or with shoes?
Either. I think barefoot's nice. In fact, I know the retreat I'm going to next week in Alabama, they have a sign, "Shoes off, please," when you go on the rebounder.
For how long?
For how long? If you're not used to it, you might just start with a few minutes, but you can certainly add up to it. But Albert Carter wrote the first book that I read on rebounding, and he wrote it back in about the 80s. And I think that he has a reprint now that was written in about 2015. In the 80s book, there's pictures of him, and he's just like this, you know, count the abs, and all he does is rebound. But in the next book, the update, there's his son, and he's not doing weightlifting. All he does is rebounding. And when your core muscles get very strong, you can sit on the rebounder and jump with your legs up in the air. There's so many things you can do. You can Google rebounder and see how that happens. But anyone can rebound. And even people that are unsteady on their feet, you can get a bar to hold on, and they can start that. It's also very good at resetting balance, because our balance is set by inner ear and bottom of the feet. So rebounding resets that. So with strengthening the bones, there are some things that must stop. There are some things that must be implemented. And as you can see by this, I haven't advocated any supplements other than the Celtic salt.